Welcome to ebook to video. We convert old, dusty digital documents into vibrant videos.
So what if your wildest, craziest dreams, or even your most boring nightmares, actually hold the key to understanding your deepest desires and fears? For centuries, we've been scratching our heads over dreams, but one guy, Sigmund Freud, came along with a truly revolutionary idea, that our dreams are a direct window into our subconscious minds. So get ready. We're going to take a journey into his world and see how his ideas still, to this day, shape how we see ourselves.
This quote right here from Hildebrand, it just perfectly nails the central puzzle that Freud was trying to solve. You know how it is, our dreams feel so bizarre, so completely nonsensical, and yet, somehow, they're built from the raw materials of our actual lives. So how on earth can they be both total fantasy and at the same time completely real? Okay, let's start with that strange reality of dreams. We're going to look at a pretty common but totally baffling dream experience that really shines a light on this whole mystery.
So, picture this. You're dreaming. It's a gorgeous spring morning. You're walking through these green fields, heading toward a village. And you see people all dressed up in their Sunday best, carrying hymn books, all making their way to church. You think, okay, I'll join them, but you decide to take a little detour through the cemetery first. And as you're there, you look up and you see the sexton climbing the church tower. The little bell up there just hangs for a second, and then it starts to swing. All of a sudden, the sound of that bell just rings out, and it's so clear, so loud, that it feels absolutely real. Your entire dream has been leading up to this one single, perfect moment. A moment that wakes you up. And you realize that sound wasn't part of the dream at all. It was your alarm clock. And your mind somehow managed to perfectly weave it into the grand finale of this whole elaborate story it just made up.
Which leads us to our first huge question. How in the world does your mind do that? How can it take a real sound from the outside world and not just react, but actually seem to predict it, building an entire narrative that climaxes at that exact moment? This right here is our first big clue that something really incredible is going on just beneath the surface.
And this brings us right to Freud's first massive insight. He realized that our dreams aren't just reacting to things happening right now, they're actively digging through our past, accessing this huge, hidden archive of memories that our waking minds have totally forgotten about.
There's actually a name for this, hyperamnesia. It's this incredible ability of the mind, when we're asleep, to recall information with perfect clarity, names, facts, places that you would have no chance of remembering while you're awake. It's kind of like having a secret, super smart librarian in your head who only clocks in for the night shift.
Let me tell you this amazing true story that shows just how this works. A guy named Del Boeuf had a dream that he was feeding fern leaves to lizards, and in the dream he knew the fern's exact Latin name, Asclepium. When he woke up, he was completely stumped. He wasn't a botanist, had no idea how he knew that name, and this mystery bugged him for 16 years, until one day, he's looking through an old plant album and finds his own handwriting next to a dried Asclepium fern. Turns out, years before the dream, he'd written the name down for a friend and then completely, utterly forgot about it.
So here's the big takeaway. Your dreams are not just making stuff up out of thin air. They're like master architects, building these strange worlds from all the forgotten bits and pieces and hidden blueprints of your actual real-life experiences. Nothing is random. Okay, but that just opens up an even bigger question, right? If our dreams are just using real memories, then why are they so weird? Why do they twist everything into these bizarre, illogical, nonsensical shapes? What's with the disguise? Well, this is where Freud introduces one of his most famous concepts, the dream censor. The best way to think about it is like a security guard, a bouncer, standing at the door of your conscious mind. And its main job is to protect your sleep, to stop any disturbing or taboo thoughts from your unconscious from getting past the velvet rope. But these thoughts are sneaky, so the censor makes them put on a disguise to get through. Freud had this brilliant analogy for it. He said, imagine a political writer who needs to criticize a really strict government. If he just comes out and says what he thinks, he's going to get shut down. So what does he do? He disguises his critique in what looks like a harmless story. And the stricter that government censorship, the crazier the disguise has to be. Your mind, according to Freud, does the exact same thing with its own uncomfortable truths. Now, this is where it gets really clever. The censor has this whole toolkit for creating these disguises. Freud called it the dream work. You've got condensation, where it smushes multiple people or ideas into one image, like dreaming of a person who's somehow both your boss and your dad. Then there's displacement, which shifts a powerful emotion onto something random, so you might dream you're terrified of a harmless little kitten instead of the thing you're actually afraid of. Then you have symbolism. And finally, secondary revision, which is like the final step that stitches all these weird disguised elements into a story that's just coherent enough to pass as a dream.
So we've got our building materials, those forgotten memories. And we've got the construction crew, that sneaky dream sensor with all its tools. But that brings us to the final and most important piece of the puzzle, the blueprint. Why does it go through all this trouble? What is the ultimate point of a dream? And this, well, this leads us to Freud's most famous and definitely most controversial conclusion.
This simple little Hungarian proverb kind of says it all. What does a hungry goose dream of? Well, food, of course, maize. At the end of the day, a dream is about getting what you want.
And this was Freud's huge radical theory. Every single dream, with no exceptions, whether it's wonderful or terrifying, totally boring or completely absurd, is an attempt to fulfill a wish. He even argued that nightmares are, in some hidden way, fulfilling a desire that's probably been repressed.
He famously proved this by analyzing one of his own dreams, the Irma's injection dream. See, in real life, Freud was feeling pretty anxious. He thought his colleague, a guy named Otto, was blaming him because a patient wasn't getting better fast enough. So that night, he has this really stressful dream about examining the patient. But when he analyzed it, he found the hidden wish. In the dream, he discovers that the patient's illness is actually because of a dirty syringe given to her by, you guessed it, Otto. The dream creates this perfect reality where Freud is totally off the hook and his critic is the one to blame. His wish to be proven innocent was fulfilled.
And this whole story just brilliantly shows that Freud's theory isn't some dusty, abstract idea. It's a real, practical toolkit you can use to start understanding the mysteries of your own mind.
So, how can you start doing this yourself? It's actually pretty simple. 1. The moment you wake up, write down everything you can remember from your dream, especially the weirdest parts. 2. Try to connect those dream elements back to things you were thinking or feeling the day before. 3. Start asking yourself, okay, what uncomfortable thoughts could these bizarre symbols be hiding? And finally, 4. Try to figure out the deep underlying wish that the dream is trying to satisfy.
By doing this, you're basically walking down what Freud famously called the royal road to the unconscious. Every dream you have is like a personal, customized map that leads straight to the hidden parts of your own mind.
It's a pretty powerful idea, isn't it? That every single night you're getting a coded letter sent from the deepest, most hidden part of yourself. The only real question is, are you ready to learn the language and actually read it?
If you had fun on this deep dive into the world of dreams, do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to eBook to Video. We love turning the world's most interesting books and ideas into clear, engaging explainers just for you. Thanks for watching.